Good evening, Demon Filled here with another hell of a show, and we've got a hell of a guest for you tonight as well. Before we get started on this too much, let me go ahead and make sure y'all can see and hear me okay if you'll let me know in the comments, and let's get those shares going. Make sure we get enough people in here to go ahead and enjoy this as well, and we've already got some people in here waiting. Dan, appreciate you being here, and my partner in crime on the business side, there is Lisa Malone is here. Thank you for being here. Scott is here as always. Scott, I appreciate you being here. And Scott says loud and clear. Thank you very much. And this time it didn't say loud and clear. I just want to go ahead and throw that out there. So it worked out this way, Scott. Appreciate that. Excellent. We'll give this another minute to make sure we've got enough people going ahead and getting shared out and in here, and we will get started with this. Appreciate it much. And hope everybody had a great day. Did as much productive stuff as possible. And we're going to get this started here very shortly. And Chris is in here as well. Thank you for being here, Chris. And let me see. We'll go ahead and get this set up on my end. All right. Let's go ahead and make it official. Demon Phil's hell of a show. We got another hell of a show for you here again tonight. Before we get started too much into that, I do have some sponsors I'd like to go ahead and thank, like I do with every show. So starting off with Totally Rad Comics, which is Totally Rad Life of Violet, Totally Rad Adventures of Zira, and he's got a few other ones in there too. Jim E. Noble, and you know him as the Clown King. Look him up. You'll find all kinds of cool stuff he's got in there. I know he's got a project coming out in October. I don't know the exact date, so just keep posted on that, and I will let you know as we go along. Next up, we have Codex Entertainment. Codex Entertainment is Luis Torres, has Lily the Demoness, and Asen Starlet. Right now, there is nothing in the works for either of those two, but as I understand it, there is a new comic coming out from him, I believe next month. So I'll keep you posted on that one as well. We have 183 Degree Studio, which is Kara Nicole, Alfred Trujillo. They finished up with Confessions of a Cosplay Diva, and now they're going to be working on the new calendar, which should be coming out, I believe, the end of this month or somewhere around there. And then the end of next month, we should be seeing Fire Bitch 2 coming out on the Kickstarter. And then, of course, we've got Naughty Fairies, Stripper Assassins, Wendy Steen Shaner. She tears it up every time she hits it with this thing. She doesn't have anything going right now with that, but if you look right up here, Comic Unity 2020, she is a part of that trio that's in there. That is Wendy Steen Shaner, that is CB Zane, that is Tom Hutchison, and that is an online con event that'll be starting on the 12th, which is this Saturday. So there's been a lot of hype about this and everything. We're about to start really taking off into this Saturday, so get excited about that and get ready for that one. And then, of course, we have got Third Empire. Third Empire just finished up with Mojo Rising, did a great job on their campaign with that. We're definitely looking forward to the next installment on that one. They have a couple other projects they're working on getting out there. As I find out more information, I will definitely let you know on that end, but don't overlook Third Empire. They're coming out strong. And finally, I want to go ahead and bring up that is Nine Realms Publishing. That is the one that I am actually the head of marketing for. So on September 11th, which is this Friday at 10:30 a.m., yes, he got me to do an AM show. 10:30 a.m., I'll be bringing him on a live show. We have a Support Our Troops cover reveal that we're going to be doing. So it's a very big deal that's on there. So with Elysian Fields, Pyramid Gambit, Support Our Troops cover reveal. Do not miss this. 10:30 a.m., September 11th, Friday. So don't miss that one. All right, that being said, I've said a lot up here. I'm tired of talking, so I'm going to bring my guest up here. We're going to have some fun. So here is Rob Multari.
Hey, Phil, how you doing?
Doing great. How about you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get started into everything on here and start getting into all the Gestapo version questioning that I always do, let's go ahead and start off with, just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, I always like to say, go ahead and let them know who you are, what you do, and where to find you.
Hi, I'm Rob Multari. I'm the creator and writer of Nightwolf, and I'm also the founder of Lone Wolf Comics. You can find me at lonewolfcomics.com, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Lone Wolf Comics.
Very cool. And we're going to be talking about those comics here very shortly as well. There are a few questions that I want to ask to kind of get into some things and get into the mindset of the creator. It's not always about just the works. I want to find out who the person is behind the works. So the first question I've got right now is a very important one. What were some of your favorite Saturday morning cartoons?
Transformers, Thundercats, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, we're good. I can keep you on the show. I had the finger on your death button, but we're okay. You passed the first test. We're gonna be okay on this one.
All right.
No, that's cool because I like to ask that because some people have. I mean, everybody's gonna have their opinions. That's not an issue with that. It's the matter of what spoke the most to you at that particular time. And with you saying that, of course, yes, I completely agree on that. And for me, it was more Transformers and Thundercats was after school, and I was like rushing home, trying to either finish my homework. Mm-hmm, or pass off that I did so I could watch the cartoons and then finish my homework.
Yeah, actually, what's funny about Thundercats is that I didn't have a network that had them. So my aunt, when her family was living in Chicago, would record them for me and then send them to my mom. So I had to watch them on VHS, like recorded style, because I had no access to them.
Very cool. Well, that's even better. That way you had it all together all the time.
Believe me, I watched the crap out of them too.
Got it. I did too. In fact, I've still got the special edition DVD set that I go through every once in a while.
Nice.
Okay, next thing would be, if you had your superpower of choice, what would it be?
Werewolf, of course.
I like that. Live the brand. That's the way to do it.
Hey, I'm a werewolf fan, and I always wanted to have, like, I always saw that vision of, like, having a werewolf who could change back and forth, kind of like X-Men style. You know what I mean? Like, I always like, why has it got to be the moon? Like, why does moon have to be the changing point? And why do they got to lose themselves? So why couldn't they be, so I wanted to see something like that. So here I am.
Very cool. Now, let me ask you this. Why did you get into comics? What actually kind of brought you into this?
So this goes way back to, like, early elementary school, in kindergarten. I am dyslexic, believe it or not. As a writer, that may sound odd. But I'm dyslexic and I have an attention deficit. And to help me cope with it and learn to read, my mom got me into comics, basically because I had no interest in reading, but I did love cartoons. I did love, the action, stuff like that. And so she got me some Batman comics with the cassette tape. It was like the Untold Legends of the Batman. It was like a 3 set with 3 cassette tapes that you could listen to and read along at the same time. So that kind of got me into trying to recognize words, kind of put them together, and then with the context of the story, and it just kind of went from there. Like, part of my incentive for doing better in school was I would get 3 comic books a week, and back then that was like $1 each. So like $3 a week, I would get, any pick of my choice. So we'd go to the local newsstand, and as long as I did my work, I was getting good grades and was trying, I would get my comics. And believe me, there was only, I think, 1 week that I didn't get them. And I was very mad at myself.
But that's very cool because, and I've actually either interviewed or found out from some of my friends and colleagues that are on here that they almost have similar stories. So, I mean, for you to say it's odd for a writer to be like that, there are a lot of people that have the same origin story almost. It's they started off that way and they built off of that and actually took something that could have been a creative negative in their life, and they created a positive off of that. And that's amazing that you're able to do that, and everyone else is too. So I definitely give you some props on that, and you got my respect on that one.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, and you've not only come up with the story itself, and someone else is doing a werewolf comic, someone else is doing this kind of comic, it's a different story that actually has a little bit of morality to it, which is pretty cool. And I enjoy that in the storyline with it because I do have 1 through 4 from you. Definitely looking forward to 5, by the way, and then however farther else we're going to take this.
Well, there's 12 issues written so far of this story arc, particularly, but it is going to be an ongoing.
Okay, then even better. So I got to make room for more of them. Then I'll definitely fix up the box for that later on. So we're talking about Nightwolf. Nightwolf 1 through 4 is what's currently available. You had it on a Kickstarter was the last way there, so you're actually fulfilling now, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's right, yeah. So I am about 2/3 complete with my fulfillment. I still have, I think, 80 more packages to get out in the mail. So that's kind of like my after work and after the kids are in bed kind of a thing. So I'm actually taking a night off packing things so I can hang out.
Yeah, I'm sure you're hating doing that too.
Oh, I know. It's so terrible. Oh.
Now, first off, let me go ahead and bring this up here, and that one is to me. I'm sorry, that is my girlfriend, so I'm going to go ahead and give that right there. So I give got to give respect there. She did say, living overseas, we didn't have American TV, so she did the same thing as well. So she knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, man, VHS, like, it was very, I had stacks of these, like, recorded things, and it wasn't just Thundercats. I mean, I remember, like, just so much that we didn't have because just where I live in a small one stoplight town growing up. I had, like, Star Wars recorded on these tapes. I had, like, the Dark Crystal. I had all kinds of great stuff.
That's the classic stuff. That's the good stuff right there. Now, let me go ahead and I'm going to do a share screen here. We're actually going to show off some of your covers from 1 through 4 and let you kind of talk about them as we're going through, because, you just can't look at my pretty face the whole time. You actually have to see something good coming up there. So this is, of course, your standard cover, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's a standard issue 1 retail cover. It's the one that has, like, the ad content on the back with like the blurbs and stuff on it. So this isn't there is a full version of this, which I'm sure you'll probably show next. So this is the full. This was a limited variant that has the whole cover back and front. And it's just like the landscape and everything that Carlos Herrera did for this is just gorgeous. And then this one, this was done by Dan Ickes, who actually is a Pittsburgh local artist, and I met him at one of my Comic-Cons down near Pittsburgh. It was actually, I think, one of my first ones, and he was, Ian came up and introduced himself, and we got along great. So I definitely wanted to get him to do a cover for me because he was there for me at the beginning, So this particular homage here is of the Hulk cover where Wolverine's got his claws up and reflecting the Hulk. So it's kind of like a similar what we got going on here with the knife reflecting. So that's Black Claw, one of my evil characters, kind of facing Nightwolf with the knife.
Very cool. I knew this question was coming. I just didn't know it was going to come this soon, so I'm going to bring it up here. Dan is asking, can you purchase the comics through him? I'm going to tell you right now, yes, you can. I don't know through 4. I don't think 4 you can't yet, right?
Yes, you can. It's now live on the website.
Okay, well, there you go. So you want to give that website so he knows one more time?
Yeah, so if you go to shop.lonewolfcomics.com, that'll take you directly to the website. Okay. And if somebody can put that in the chat for us, that would be awesome.
So it was shop.lonewolf.com.
Yeah, shop.lonewolfcomics.com.
Lonewolfcomics.com. Okay.
Yep.
So if someone could put that in the chat, we'd be most appreciative on that one, please. And we'll keep going through the covers here a little bit on this one. But yeah, Dan, you definitely you know how you kind of stick around and you ask which ones you want to get a hold of. I have this in my collection. You need it. Trust me.
So this one is a variant cover for issue 1 by Joseph Schmalk. He does the Electric Black through Scout Comics. He also did a Ninja Turtles variant cover for the Last Ronin, and this is basically his depiction of my demon character Tartarus, which, like, when I saw his art, I knew would be perfect for doing a cover for Tartarus. And he hit it spot on. I mean, he even one of my original drawings of him had like the kind of like the skeletal nose, which didn't translate. Now, like, I think the way Carlos had drawn him, it was more of like a reptilian snout. But yeah, so Joseph took that original drawing of mine and kind of ran with it. It was nice.
Very cool. I like that one. I mean, it does have that. It has a darker feel to it, because even the book itself is not as dark as this particular cover is kind of showing on here, which is really cool whenever you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Connotation in there, but not that dark.
Yeah, and I think it has a bit of a Nosferatu kind of a feel to it, like that original, like...
Exactly. Plus, you mentioned it's a demon, so come on, it's got my attention.
I mean, right, it's right up your alley. So this gorgeous thing here happened to be a birthday present for you, if I recall.
Yes, yes, it was.
So this was a Keystone exclusive for last year's Keystone Comic Con in Philadelphia. This one was done by a Philadelphia local, Chris Williams, as well as Jake Eisenberg and Melvin as the colorist. I wanted to really kind of show that like classic 80s horror feel to this, with the girls, being surrounded by the various monsters. So in the background, we have Black Claw. In the foreground on the left, we have Tartarus, as you can kind of see with the scales from the reptilian-esque demon. And then the other side, on the right side, or at least stage right, that's one of the vampires that happens to show up in that issue. And these girls, actually, the three monsters end up taking these girls individually, so that's why they're all kind of together in this shot.
Cool. Now we go into issue 2, which has got a few variants of its own and different covers, and it gets to be a bigger story because as you're going along, you're increasing the universe that you're dealing with on this. So you've kind of given snapshots in one, and then in 2 you kind of evolve off of that. I'm not doing spoilers. Everybody knows that spoilers.
Yes. So with issue 1, there was a lot of ground to cover, and I know I was being really brave at without giving anything away, there, like having so many like facets to show in issue 1, but really from there it kind of trees off. You have to basically, that was my world building issue. And then now we're kind of getting into it. With this issue, especially, this is where, towards the middle to the end of this is where a lot of, shit hits the fan, if you will. This cover is the standard retail of issue 2, and it's kind of depicts, it's a little bit of foreshadowing, if you will, in a kind of an elegant way. It's basically depicting a homecoming dance surrounded by monsters. Now, this issue with it is where Rodney, the main character, first discovers that he is a werewolf, and usually this happens when they come of age, which is 18 for them. Which in werewolf years, in my book, it's kind of like reverse dog years. So he's still technically a pup. But yeah, so this is kind of like that moment of like first time transitioning and having that, that feral rage come out. And so I wanted to have an amazing, so I call this my hero shot. This gorgeous shot of him, howling to the moon.
Yeah, it came out really well, and I love how the background plays directly into it. Your eyes just kind of go ahead and, just the whole thing speaks throughout the whole deal. I mean, like you said, it's a hero shot because it doesn't look like a horror movie scenario on there. It almost looks like a good guy who is transformed. Even if it didn't know anything about the storyline itself, you could actually kind of see that.
Yeah. I mean, for him, like I said, I didn't want it to have that typical werewolf feel to it. And I have a particular set of like aesthetic when it comes to what I like in my werewolves. Like, I don't like when they look more like a gorilla or a man with fur on their face. Like, I wanted more wolf look than man, but still being able to stand upright. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I think the colorist on this was Ross A. Campbell. He actually worked on issue 1 and this cover, and then got picked up by DC Comics. So I couldn't fault him for leaving. I was sad, but so I had to find a new colorist for the rest of issue 2 and on.
Cool. And Dan said amazing pictures, and David Fott is in here now, and I was expecting him to be in here tonight. David Fott is a small, just a smidge into horror movies and whatnot. Just a little bit. So this kind of thing right here, I know he's over there just digging into it. So I will say this right now for you, David. Lisa put it up there. So there is shop.lonewolfcomics.com. is where you'll go to find all these over there. You can see all the goodies. We're just kind of going through them here tonight too, and then kind of getting into a little bit of the story. We'll show some interiors here just in a moment as well. Let me see, we got this one here.
So this one, this variant cover here, this was a very limited print. I only printed 200 of these, I think. I'm sure I only printed 200. Usually the rare ones that was just a very short run. But this one, so this is basically Nightwolf after his change for the first time, go fighting Blackclaw, who is one of the evil werewolves in the story, in front of Rodney's high school. So, and this kind of takes place kind of during / after the homecoming dance, if you will, of terror.
Exactly. And David Fox said, yeah, I'm going to go look for sure. I'm going to go ahead and give David a quick little plug on here, because David is working on a book with Mel Heflin that is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, David, it is Werewolf Cheerleaders, something about the water. I can't remember. You put the title up there for me, please, because we're definitely looking forward to that. I know you're working on it right now, but it's something that I'm sure that Rob would like to take a look at too.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And if you ever want to do any cross promotion, I'm all about sharing, and because there's not enough of us doing werewolf books out there.
There you go.
And here we go. Here we come to my favorite variant cover. So this one is done by Sean Forney. I don't know if you guys recognize this or not, but I mean, it's this unknown comic called X-Men. So it's basically one of my favorite X-Men comics. I know that this cover has been done by everybody, but I had to do it, especially because Wolverine's my favorite character, and to put my character in his place in this setup, and plus considering the fact that a lot of these characters that you see in the background, things happen, and it was just a perfect setup to this cover to not do this. But to me, like I was telling Phil that like this is my favorite because one, like it's gorgeous. It's got Sean did an amazing job. He was spot on with the X-Men cover. Plus, I took a lot of time into laying out the cover with all the graphic design elements to make it look like I had it side by side, trying to like make sure everything looked just spot on. And I'm very proud of this one, and I can't stop looking at it.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is now the standard issue of or standard retail cover for issue 3. Mm-hmm. This is actually a 3-piece homage to Jim Lee's X-Men cover for issue 1 when they did the in the 90s run. And so this part is basically showing the one hero shot on the left side, and then we have another one, if you want to go. So this one is the right side of this 3-piece. So this is another variant, but this has the other hero. So this is this is the first issue that my female werewolf, who becomes Nightwolf's mentor, shows up. She is a Scottish werewolf. She was born in the 19th century, and I will tell you a lot more about her coming up because there's going to be a spin-off series for her. So this is Snowpaw. She is basically, a strong female character who is going to make some waves in the comic industry coming up.
And I know several people that are going to be very excited about that because the strong female setup in there, they really like looking into that. But then taking it and putting it into a werewolf design or something like that to make it where it's different, where it's unique, and that I like that.
So, and here we have the official what connects the whole X-Men homage. It basically, it's the vampire holding up his hand like Magneto does in the cover. You really don't get the whole X-Men vibe until you put them all together. But this is what completes that. As you can see, the tails on either side where the covers connect, and it just when you see these covers all next to each other, it's just they pop. It's such a gruesome scene too, because as you can see, there's a bit of a spoiler on this cover. I'm not going to tell you who these people are, but they're having a bad day.
Believe it. Most definitely. So going to this one now, before we get into this one real quick, I want to bring up, because David went ahead and named, since I completely chopped his title on there, Curse of the Aquatic Lycanthropic Cheerleaders, or something like that. Yeah. So that's going to be the book that he is working on with Mel. And he said, yeah, for sure, man, whenever you were talking about the Crossable Cross. So that can get very interesting. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
And yeah, David, all of this stuff is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, there's so many different variations of covers and everything on here, but all of them have their own style and their own uniqueness to them. And it's hard to choose from, to be honest, but it's some amazing stuff in here.
Yeah, I honestly, whenever I was contacting artists, it was out of the thought of, oh, I don't know, who's going to actually take me on my offer, right? I'm like, hey, I will pay you to do a cover. Will you do it? Are you interested? And, I always get back, basically everybody says, yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like shocked, because I some of these, names that I've, especially issue 4, was pleasantly surprised that they accepted. But this one is this was a variant cover to show Snowpaw's first appearance by Carlos Herrera, who is kind of like he was my first artist, left because he got picked up by one of those kind of it wasn't Magic the Gathering, but it was some other gaming type of table card deck game companies. So he left for a while, and then I got Oscar Chocococtaele, who is Bakuman Studio, to do issue 2 and 3, most of issue 1, where Carlos left off. But then Carlos, now he's in a full-time professor job, teaching illustration. It has more time to put towards this again, so he's back on issue 4. But he did this gorgeous cover of Snowpaw, which he did the original character designs based off of my ideas, and he just kills it every time. All of his werewolves are just, I mean, the fluidity, you see the wind in the hair, and he's spot on with what he does.
Very cool. And then we go into 4.
Yes, and so now we have the standard retail of issue 4, and this is one of the best. I think. I mean, they're all great covers. Don't get me wrong, but I think this one I wanted to keep this one to be the standard retail because it really is it's elegant and gorgeous in its own yin yang sort of fashion, showing the battle between good and evil. With its werewolves with axes and armor and swords. I mean, come on. So yeah, I mean this one, this is another Carlos Herrera cover, and just everything he does it's amazing. And I can't wait to see more of what he's doing for me as we move forward with these series.
Well, honestly, whenever I first saw this, whenever you had your campaign going, I thought it was a Perillo. Whenever I first just glanced at it, it has that immediate feel of Perillo on there, which is amazing.
Yeah, actually, and it's not the first time I've heard that too. So it's one of those things where it's he just has such a gorgeous style, and it it really just it's amazing. And with he only does the line artwork in issue 4, but Gat Melvin is also, he's a great colorist, so I love working with him. And for Carlos to be able to put this much effort for a cover into an issue, we'd be probably still working on this issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he puts his time and he puts his effort into it. So this one is a variant cover by it's Paradigm Shifts. I don't know if you've ever heard. It's an online webtoons, I think, comic by Dirk Teed. So he does it's basically it's a detective who, not without giving too much away, has to deal with werewolf situation, and it's female lead. And I saw it. He launched a campaign around the same time as my October one for issues 1 through 3, and ever since then, he and I have been talking back and forth. I supported him, he supported me. I reached out to him and say, "Hey, I want you to do a cover for me." So, and here we are. And so, as you see here, it's kind of like a pyramid of werewolves.
Exactly.
But as you notice that there's a lot of different cultures being represented here, because as I've mentioned, my werewolves are born werewolves. And there's only, so the breed that Rodney is a part of is kind of an offshoot breed that was kind of outcasted. Whereas the rest of them they keep, they have cultures all over the world, and they maintain these cultures. Whereas like this other breed has been kind of like shunned out, and now it's been cast upon into the world. So it's kind of like they don't know, and they carry a recessive gene. So it's not like their parents all are like, oh, guess what? We're werewolves, because they don't know. It's passed down, through the generations. And it just happens, every once in a while that this recessive trait manifests.
And what I like about it is not just the different werewolves that you got in here, but if you look, you also got a castle over here, and then you got an Aztec temple over here on the side. So you're talking about the different cultures and everything. If you don't catch it all in here, that's one thing, but that right there kind of stands out. And then the moon is perfect because the size of it and everything just makes everything blend perfectly. So they nailed this cover.
Yeah, Dirk did an amazing job on this one. So here we are with, so this cover is done by Connor Hughes, who is the artist for White Ash. And I am a huge fan of White Ash. And I had the honor of meeting Connor at the Keystone Comic-Con last year. I was actually tabled next to him. So he and I got to hang out and chat all weekend long, which was amazing because, like, I got that. And I've heard of White Ash before. But like just, being next to him, like we traded issues, right? So he got my issue 1, I got his issue 1. I read it and I'm like, I must have more. So I instantly got hooked on White Ash. And so I have all 6 issues that they have out now through Scout. I also have their thick trade hardback cover of their trade paperback that they got collecting issues 1 through 4. So I mean, like I said, true fan. I love Connor's art. It's gorgeous. I mean, as you can see, I mean, he has a different take. And I told him, I'm like, you have free artist license. Like, do it. Just go. I don't care what you do. Just go. I'm like, here's the basics. This is what the scene. I gave him examples that Carlos did for internal pages, and this is what he came up with.
It came out amazing. And then this one has got a lot of moving parts in there. So tell us about this one.
So this one it's basically takes from the same scene, but a different artist altogether. So this one is Chris Williams again. Chris Williams, who did the Keystone exclusive for issue 1. So he's doing this rare variant that this is another one of those 200 limited prints. So this one, I wanted to kind of like show her Snowpaw being that, strong character in this one, getting in between the two, because just a little bit here, these 3, it's kind of like Superman, it's kind of like Batman versus Superman. It's got then Wonder Woman kind of interjecting in a way, if you just to kind of give a little background there without giving anything away. Or maybe if we want to go, I don't know, since he's wearing a suit, maybe Iron Man and Captain America with Thor in the middle. I don't know.
Could be. Probably work out better that way.
Yeah. Or maybe the combination thereof. We'll go with that. What was that Anagram comics series that they had where they like, mushed them together?
Exactly.
But yeah, no. So there's, like I said, I wanted it to be like a little ominous, showing her, strengths. And then, like, it's a fall scene. So this takes place during, the fall. And I wanted to show that. And what's funny about that is, so Gat Melvin was also the colorist on this. And he's also the colorist for issue 3 and issue 4. And, he's from South Africa, and they don't have changing seasons. So it was one of those things where I'm sending him examples of like, the fall leaves, and I'm like, okay, this is what I want. And then, then it's like, it came back. I'm like, that's not exactly it, but let's try this again. But, he did a great job. The colors, everything, the leaves falling in the scene, and you could see the wind, the wind. It's great. Like, Chris Williams is, illustration matched with, his colors. It's just spot on every time.
Very cool. And we've got one more cover available in all of this, which is this one here.
Yes. So this one actually is extremely rare and only could have been. You could have only gotten this one during the last Kickstarter campaign, which was issue 1 through 4. And so this is Matthew Doe Smith, who he's an industry vet. He did a great job. This is kind of like the same representation of the first cover, but just in a different style, showing kind of like a Romanesque looking, the fighters, if you will. But I held on to this one. Like, I knew this was actually the first cover that I had anybody do way back in December for issue 4. Like, I didn't reveal it until the campaign. And this was like way towards the end of the campaign. What I wanted to do with this one was to basically, I wanted to hold this for a thank you. So this cover, everybody who pledged at a physical level got this one for free. So once we reached, I think it was a stretch goal at 11,000, and we hit it. And I said, I think we were under 10 when I first introduced it. I said, listen, this cover is, you're going to basically just get a free issue, variant that only you will get, as a Kickstarter exclusive if we get to 11K, right? So, and that was like 2-3 days before the end of the campaign. And I mean, it shot like a rocket, and I was so happy, so surprised. But like I said, I had this in my pocket because I wanted to give it away for free. I didn't want to just be like, oh, here's another, money grab, like this was intended from the very beginning. Whenever I worked, with Matthew on this cover, I'm keeping this one in my pocket, and I'm going to give this one away if we get to the point where I can give it away without breaking the bank.
Exactly. Now, you've got 1 through 4 is out there. We've kind of been talking about the different floppies that are available and everything. So you're thinking about doing a trade is what your next thing you're planning on doing. And that'll be 1 through 4, correct?
Yes. So so I'll be doing a Kickstarter this fall for the volume 1, collecting 1 through 4. So I mean, each comic is a 24-page comic, so that'll be all collected. Plus, all those covers that you've seen will also be pinup art inside the book, as well as other exclusive content that'll be inserted into the trade paperback. So this line art here that you're seeing is so this is what's going to be the soft cover of the trade paperback, and this is again Carlos Herrera. He's doing this whole cover, so it's also going to be a wrap cover, so that in the back will have like the it'll connect and then have the text and everything. And so, but in general, so, the scene that we have here, is Rodney, and then his transformation into Night Wolf. And then on, the characters that are involved in the story kind of around him. So to kind of give you a little sneak, obviously not a sneak peek, but a sneak idea of what the hardcover is going to be like. So the hardcover for the same trade paperback is going to be kind of like kind of like a Rosetta Stone style mural-esque with like the different werewolves fighting. So we're gonna have like the kind of that same similar idea of the werewolves fighting in a yin-yang sort of setup, where then you have claw marks, like a die cut. So there'll be a die cut claw mark, and then you'll be able to see the eyes of the werewolf behind. So you open it up, and then there's this page that shows the werewolf's face, and then another page when you open it up, then you'll see the human face behind it, and the eyes will line up all the way through. So that's going to be the hardcover.
We know which one I'm going to be gravitating toward.
Yeah, so it's probably the most ambitious thing that I've done thus far. But I think once it's done, it's going to be gorgeous. And to kind of give you also another step forward. Like I said, this is a 12-issue story arc. So each volume, there'll be 3 volumes for the story arc, and they're going to be connecting. So there's going to be the stone, if you will, that's kind of like being clawed through. Is going to be connecting through all 3 volumes, and then so we're going to have Night Wolf doing the claw through on Volume 1, we'll have Snowpaw be the claw through with Volume 2, and Black Claw, who is the villain werewolf, will be for Volume 3 clawing through. And I'm going to have the claws be different sizes because it's going to be their hand claw. So obviously, like, whereas like Nightwolf is a younger, werewolf is going to be a little bit different than, like, say, Black Claw, who is older, and he's going to have a more like a bear claw, if you will, at that point. And then, you know, they're with Snowpaw, it'll be a little bit more different because she's a feminine. It's going to be a smaller hand, but still, you know, so it's going to be unique in their own sense, but still, like, you can tell, like, these are part of a collector set.
That is very cool. Okay, I'm going to admit with you. Okay, Dan, I'm right there with you, buddy, because he's just talking about this right now, and I'm over here deciding if I need an extra kidney or not. I mean, I need both of them. I can get rid of one. I can live off one lung, maybe. But we've talked about and shown a lot of the exterior art. And for those of you that are out there that don't understand, you can actually open up these books and there's more pages inside, which, you know, really cool artwork and words and stories and stuff, which is really cool. So I'm going to briefly go through some of the interiors that we got, because once I show you these, you're never going to believe it. Because most people, whenever they see someone, especially in the indies, they kind of judge a book by its cover almost, unfortunately. So they look at the exterior and they're like, well, if it's that good art, you know, outside, it's not going to be so much inside. Well, tell you what, why don't you be the judge and let me know what you think of this? Because that's just one page of it right there. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen many a book from many a person and everything out there. And from the artwork you get outside to the artwork you get inside, this is sick. This is some amazing looking artwork.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just to kind of show off some things on here, I'm just going to kind of briefly go through so we can kind of show off some things. But just you can see, I mean, look at the detail work that's in here. There's not a lot of wording in here. There's not a lot of lettering, but it's always been my opinion that if you can go through on a lot of these and you can actually read through it without lettering and you can understand the story, the lettering just adds emphasis at that point. It shouldn't be the thing that actually tells the story. So I can look at this right here and you're actually seeing a story in motion, and it is detailed. I mean, this is some amazing work. You got to let me know in the comments what you think about this, because I like this. And then we have some different styles that are in there too to show some action. And I love the way that you separate the panels on there, because not that standard 9-panel square panel setup. Everybody has, like, my biggest pet peeve, just because it's the easiest and the simplest way to do it. Think outside the box, literally.
Yeah, exactly. I like how you know, both Carlos and Oscar can, you know, lay out a page. You know, once I give them the script, sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, can we do this or combine?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, do what you need. I'll, you know, if I need to adjust, you know, the lettering whenever I get into it, you know, I'll do it." As long as it doesn't, you know, break away from the story, of course.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I mean, just look at the detail work that's in here and the amount of you can definitely see the passion that's inside the work. So it's not just the outside exterior, the interior says it as well. And no spoilers, but the storyline is phenomenal. You definitely want to get involved in this, because I'm hooked. I'm part of the wolf pack. I'm telling you that right now. So he's saying we got 12 of them that are ready to go. I'm going to make room for 12 books or more. But yeah, I mean, you can see. I mean, you make your judgment for yourself by going and looking at some of these. It's some pretty intense scenes that are on here to go ahead and convey the message and convey the story and all, and it looks amazing on there. So I just wanted to definitely show that off, to show some of those. And again, let us know in the comments what you think about those, because that's some heavy duty artwork, I'm telling you right now. And if David's still in here, or he may have stepped off for just a moment, he'll come back and watch this. David thought you definitely need to take a look at this, because I know your jaw is probably on the ground right now. So we've looked at the artwork. We've talked about the stuff on there. We've talked about the trade that you're going to be working on and all. So now I want to kind of go into some other things that I did a little bit of quote-unquote research on you.
Uh-oh. Where's my pornos? I better hide them. Shh, don't tell my wife.
So what I realized, though, is as I was scrolling through your page, And it's always whenever you're dealing with a creative team member, you always look through their page and find out who they are. You can always see that by just scrolling through. So what I noticed on there is, yes, there's a lot of Nightwolf stuff and there's a lot of werewolf stuff, which is great because you're pushing the brand on there. But what made the most attention come to my mind as I was scrolling through there, there's a lot of advocating that you're doing on there. And I noticed especially during your campaign, where normally it would be you and you alone on your own project and everything, you're still advocating and promoting for others on there. Mm-hmm. So the question that I want to ask you is, do you consider yourself more of an influencer or an advocator, and what do you see the differences as being?
You know, I think I wouldn't say I'm an influencer. At least I don't think I am, because I don't think of myself as being that at that level. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I still feel like the new kid on the block. Not to go 80s boy band on you or anything, but it just, to me, like, I guess I still sometimes I get that imposter syndrome. I don't feel like I'm as successful. You know, like, I'm shocked to, you know, like that last Kickstarter, like how successful it was. I'm almost like, am I going to be able to do this again? You know what I mean? Like, so I still feel like I'm still fairly fresh. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but officially published, you know, is one thing. Like, I'm still fairly new and I'm still getting my feet wet. I'm still learning tricks of the trade. So I don't see myself as an influencer. As an advocator, I could say yes, because I will promote, you know, like, comics that I love. I will promote my friends. I will promote, like, you know, if I think it's a great story, got great art, I'm gonna share it. And I think that, especially now, like, I've been into comics, as you know, like, since I was a kid, before I could read. And so I've been following DC and Marvel, and I followed along the growth of Image, you know, like, I was there at their birth. Mm-hmm. I mean, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I now at the point, like, where and I hate to say it, I stopped reading Marvel, I stopped reading DC, because a lot of it was getting stale. So, like, there was a period of time where I was like, I don't have the money to keep dumping into this. I have a family to fend for, you know? Like, I'm just like, it sucks because, like, I'm a collector at heart. Like, you know, so for me, like, I felt, you know, like there was that little thing missing there for a while. And, you know, I kept working through my comics on my own through the side. But once I, like, started getting into, like, Kickstarter, you know, and finding all these indies, it was, like, you know, amazing, like, the transformation that, like, happened.
Somebody breaking into your house, you might want to call 911.
It's just my wife. She has a closet in my office. That was the deal. She got the walk-in closet and I got the office.
Gotcha.
Which I think I got the good deal. Anyway, so yeah, so you know, when I started getting introduced to the Kickstarter side of things, and more like I found out that there was a bigger thing to indie than what I thought. Like, I you know, getting on Facebook and meeting all these other indie creators and becoming part of a community, and you know, helping each other out and learning from each other. So, if you know, for me, it was kind of like a renaissance. In a way, I feel like we're experiencing a golden age of indie comics now, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad, I'm so glad to, like, be meeting all these creators, these new creators, these creators who've been doing it longer than me, or even, you know, who been doing it at the same time as me but got ahead of me. You know, or just even, like, in general, like, I love talking to creators, picking their brains, love sharing what I've learned. You know, I'm a part of many groups. And I talk to a lot of people, you know, about certain things. And, you know, I'm not afraid to ask questions because I'm headstrong. I'm stubborn enough to keep doing this and dumping money into it when I know I haven't turned a profit, but I'm still doing it. But, like, I'm enjoying it. I love doing it. I love comics. I've always wanted to be, I mean, everything I've done was around comic books, you know, like, even the reason I went to art school for graphic design was to get into comics, you know, like, that was, like, kind of like I started out as an animation major because it would help me draw. Right. But I kind of got out of that because I didn't like drawing as many times and repetitive things as they, the animators had to do. So I switched to the graphic design. And so that's kind of like, and I was in a band from high school through college and then after graduation. And a lot of the artwork for the CDs was my just comic book style drawings. And matter of fact, the band was named after one of my comic book characters. So everything I've done is about comics. I love comics. I want to put out comics. I want to read comics. So I am definitely an advocate of comic books. And, anybody who wants to put out a comic book, do it, I've read a thing today about writing for fans, but if you are a fan and you're writing what you like and, you like what a lot of fans like, you're writing for yourself as a fan, you're writing for the fans. And that's my take on that,
Exactly. And I have noticed as well, it's not just the sharing. I noticed that you were actually commenting and conversing with several of the artists on there with their projects. And it's more, you just start off with basically hey, that looks great. It's going to kick ass whenever you go on the campaign, or your campaign's doing so well right now. I can't wait for you to hit, the next goal or whatever. Mm-hmm. You're always uplifting them on that, which is cool because you never know, what kind of day they're having or what they're going through. So as long as you give some kind of a positive statement on there, and you seem to do that on a lot of those. So I do appreciate you doing that because you run into a lot of people that you never know what they're going through. And it may be that one time where they're just about to go pencils down for the last time and say, I'm done with this. I'm never going to pick it up again. And then they get one message from Rob Multari on there saying, hey, you know what? That was a great cover that you did on that one there. And I can't believe that story came out so well. When am I going to get the second issue?
Right.
And you're like, pencils back up. We're going to this one.
And I've experienced failure myself. My first Kickstarter back in 2016. Oh, hey, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But my first Kickstarter back in 2016, I played the game on hard. And so I went for issues 1 through 3 and only having 5 pages done, and the character designs and the cover. So with all that, I'm like, oh yeah, with no audience, I'm going to go in there and make $20,000. But because I believed in my project, I believed in my story, that I was like, yeah, I could do this, So, but had I played the game on a little bit easier beginner level, if I would have set my goal at 5,000, I would have funded for my first issue.
Right.
But that didn't stop me. So knowing that I wasn't getting any of that money from Kickstarter, I told you this earlier, like I do freelance graphic and web design to pay for the art before I go and print the books. So I make sure my artists are taken care of well before I go to Kickstarter, because the book is 100% done before I go. And I kind of learned that from this first failure. I made sure that, okay, now I'm just going to put this out myself and see where it goes. I didn't give up, though I have to say there was a 6-month period where I was kind of like, I had to step away from it. It was kind of like I put a lot of effort and a lot of energy and just to kind of hit that. And so it took me a minute to pick myself off the floor. There's a lot of things I wish I would have done in hindsight. But for those of you who feel like you have a failed Kickstarter, if you fail the first time, don't give up. Reach out to your backers. Don't do what I did. Reach out to your backers. Say, hey, I'm going to get you a first copy digitally for free in exchange for your email. We're going to keep this going. When I'm ready to start again, I will let you know. That way you start building your email list, your audience. If you haven't got one, then it's important. Build your audience before you launch. Do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, so I mean, from there, like I paid for the first issue, went to a Comic-Con, and at that Comic-Con, I almost sold out I had 100 with me. I almost sold out of all 100 of them, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't run out on day one.
That is really cool. Now, we've kind of talked, we've talked about Nightwolf, we've talked about the trade, we've talked about who you are as a person and everything. So we're going to ask the question, what's the future for Nightwolf Comics? What do you have in the future for it?
So, aside from the trade that we've talked about, we are going to do launch for issue 5, probably early 21. So probably like January, February-ish, depending on how the fulfillment goes with the trade, because I'm gonna probably do fulfillment right after the new year, just to kind of get away from the holiday season, because that's just gonna get lost in the rush, and I want the books to get there, close to when I'm saying it's gonna get there. So after that, we're going to have number 5, and we're going to move on from there. And again, we have 12 issues written so far for this story arc. I've already started issue 13 of the new story arc, and I have a long, drawn-out plan of where I'm going with this. The universe is vast in my mind.
Very nice.
But aside from that, and I may have mentioned this a little earlier when we saw Snowpaw, we are doing a origin story spin-off for this Scottish-born lassie. So it takes place in the 19th century in Scotland, and so basically this is her coming-of-age tale. And what's nice about this story is this kind of opens up more of the fantasy side, not just the horror and supernatural. And, and I have a daughter who's 3, and eventually she will be getting into comics. Or at least she better. So I kind of wanted this series to be not so much that it's childlike. The way I see this is it's kind of like Disney Princess meets Carnival Row and Penny Dreadful. So this is how I see this series. If you kind of get my take. So it's kind of like it's a little darker, but it's not to the point where it's like gory stuff. You know what I mean? Like I want it to still be like digestible for like all ages, and and I want her to be a strong female character for girls to look up to. Like I said, much like Wonder Woman or like Storm from the X-Men. A lot of those very strong women characters that I wanted her to come into her own and tell her story and see how the fantasy side of things interact with the supernatural. And it's what I really love about this story is I have this idea that I'm writing into the script that when the artists are drawing the panels, there's also going to be, how there's fantasy and supernatural creatures hidden in the world that normal people don't see, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a scene in particular that this is the only one I've talked about this because I don't want to give it all away, but there's a scene where her and her parents are talking in their little farmhouse, and I don't know if you've ever heard of brownies, but they're like the little people who steal things from your house, and so you see a bunch of brownies kind of stealing stuff from their cupboards and running across the panels. And at the back of the book, so each kind of scene will have its own set of little hidden creatures, if you will. In the back of the book, there's going to be a creature appendix, saying, "Did you see this character or this creature? Go back, if you didn't, go back and look."
Very cool.
So it's going to be more of an interactive, as well as an interesting story.
It does. It seems it's a different take on the regular that you've got. So it's a spinoff on there, but it takes it into a different direction, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Something fresh and interesting, because just to take the character and do a separate origins or something like that, that's good to a degree. But if you take it into a whole different direction with that as well, makes it where it's much more acceptable for not only, like you said, for your regular crowd to get it, but a much different audience as well.
Right. And what's nice about taking it back to her origin is it's 200 years before the events of Nightwolf. So I have a lot of play, I have a lot of space to play with.
Now, this is in Scotland. Are we talking about Highlander there type thing?
So it is in the Scottish Highlands at first, but it does. So this series for Snowpaw actually moves around. But it starts off in the Scottish Highlands, and her mentor, who eventually finds her, is a Viking. So it kind of like, it doesn't go into his backstory as much, but I mean, it shows elements of, his heritage and as his Viking Norse, and, so they move around Europe a lot. But they kind of have this little hold up. There's this supernatural / fantasy bar that's ran by a female elf. And there's also this kind of like a steampunk dwarf, female character, who they're kind of like the comedic, pairing, the comic relief, if you will, to these two serious characters. And then there's also there's going to be a were lion from Africa who was saved by the Viking on one of his trips around the world. So that it's one of those cases where like he saved his life, so now he owes him a debt. Now he follows him around. But I, like I said, wanted to show that that there's not just werewolves in this world. There's werebeasts as a kind of an overarching, and then there's werewolves, there's werebears, there's werelions, and so on and so forth. So that was kind of like my way of introducing that there was a different species of were.
Well, I know we'll definitely be looking forward to that one as well. And of course, you're going to keep on with the story arc going because, I mean, you've got up to 12 and you're working on 13 right now. Mm-hmm. So I need a bigger box. I'll take care of that. We're going to start looking into like Nightwolf short box or something like that in the future.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. So, I mean, we have the mystery box now, but it's getting full.
Exactly. Well, Rob, we've had a great time having you on here tonight, getting to know you a little bit more, getting to know your product and all. Looks like you've got a few more fans that are getting interested in this and taking a look at your stuff. Again, go over there to go ahead and give us that link one more time where we can find this.
It's shop.lonewolfcomics.com.
There you go.
And then you can read more about the different titles. I also have other titles that I'm going to be releasing in the future as well, that are kind of gives background details at lonewolfcomics.com. You can kind of read up about them and where we're going to go from there.
Very cool. And my gal says you have a few new fans. So
well, thank you.
We're getting into comics as well, and I think this kind of interests her as well, which is great. All right. So thank you very much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and drop you back for right now. If you want to hang out in the green room, I'll be back there shortly.
Yeah. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to having you back whenever you have your next project as well. All right. So we had Rob up here. We had a great time, got to know him a little bit, got to know his comics that he's got, what he's got coming up, what he's got going on with all this. And it turns out he's got a lot bigger universe than I even knew that he had on there, which is great to know because there's a lot of flexibility in that. Now, I always have a closing statement at the end of my shows. Tonight's not going to be any different on that. I always base it on my guests, at least I try to for the most part. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and use creativity on this one because I never script anything. I just kind of go shoot off the hip on this one. So with creativity, so why limit yourself to what's inside of a square? Why not go ahead and think outside the box? Why not go ahead and try something different? Go ahead and throw caution to the wind and try something and see where it goes. Follow your audience, see what they like, see what they enjoy, and see if you can create something that has something different in it that's going to go ahead and get their attention. Because Rob definitely gets our attention with all of this, and he's just getting started. So whenever he has his next project, I guarantee I want to see every one of you there, and everyone that's watching this later on needs to be on that project to go ahead and see what he's got available on there. And then we do what we do best, and we support him in every way we possibly can. If it can't be financial for whatever reason, it doesn't cost anything. Use the power of that finger, hit that share button. So until next time, you already know one pebble in a pond makes that ripple. You know what happens when we throw enough out there, we get the waves of change. So until next time, keep it indie, y'all.